Welcome back, everybody. Steve from the Pinball Room. It's been a while. I apologize it's taking me so long to get another video out. There has been a lot of work done on my homebrew pinball machine here, my Led Zeppelin machine. And most notably, you might be seeing some things here in the back box going on that's different. But let me catch you up. It's kind of been hard. Again, I'm kind of struggling to know exactly what to bother recording and what to share with you guys. I could record and try to share everything with you. I don't necessarily have the time to record every last little thing for you. Anyway, long story short, I felt I was way overdue. A couple of you reached out to me like, hey Steve, we're gonna be getting more videos. So I appreciate your interest. So I owe it to you. Let me catch you up on where I'm at and what's going on. That I'm working around these certain milestones now. I had like this list of videos of like everything I wanted to do to document as I've gone through the process. I've kind of gone through that list almost. There's a number of things left on there, but now I'm kind of more in this mode of not just working myself down this list of like, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. It's more about these milestones of I've got the show coming up. I want to take it over here for people to play it. I want to have it ready to go to this show over here. So the next big milestone I've been working towards is I'm going to do another public playtesting event. Night is not an event, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to be taking it out to another place here locally in Salt Lake City. So for those of you who are out here in Salt Lake City, on February 21st, it's a Wednesday, down at my good buddy Michael Eccleston's location of Quarters. He's got two of these barcades here in Salt Lake. They are fantastic. We're going to be going to the one in his Sugar House location, the newer one. They've got a tournament night on that Wednesday, and he's going to make space in there in the lineup next to it. So when you guys come down, take place, or play in the tournament, or if you don't, either way, come by. And when you got a down minute between your games for the tournament, you can swing by and come give a whirl here on Led Zeppelin and let me know what you think. Okay, I'm really enjoying it. I think it's coming along. I've made several adjustments to the play that I think really have improved it. So. All right, I'm a little scatterbrained. Lots of things to catch up on. So what have I been working on? I've been working still on tons of code. One of the guys, Anthony Van Winkle, who I cannot give enough kudos and thank yous to. This guy, just by a labor of love, has been going through and contributing a ton to Mission Pinball Framework, the software. And he's been the one, I've mentioned him a couple times before if you followed along, he's been the one who has gone through and worked on some updates to the control for the stepper motors inside Mission Pinball Framework and allowed it to have a lot more control, which I need for my staircase to make sure it works the way I want it to. And he's done even some more work on that to add some new homing switch code to have greater control over when the staircase homes. We'll come back to that. I ran into issues with the staircase, trying to perfect it, make sure it really played consistently every single time. And with his help, I think we've now got a solution, both physically and programmatically, that is working to where the staircase is working consistently game after game after game. So I've been starting to put it through its paces. It's been working really solid. Anyway, we'll come back to that. So I've been iterating a lot on the stairs, and that's kind of the main thing I want to talk about today is really dialing in this staircase because, I mean, that's like the whole mech of this pinball machine, right? There's other shots, other fun ramps and things going on, but like if I can't get this staircase to consistently work for every game, then I want to take it to Northwest Pinball Arcade Show again here in June. I'll be going there for sure. I want to make sure it plays well for everybody. If I make it out to Expo this fall, like I'm really, really hoping, I want to make sure people get on, that it plays, and not halfway through the game like, oh, wait, the ball got stuck somewhere it shouldn't. Oh, the stairs are not in alignment. Like, it's got to work consistently, right? Plus, just for me and everybody else around here to be able to have fun playing the dang thing, right? Anyway, so that's been a big thing. So the other thing that I've worked on is let's focus on the play field. One of the things, let me bring in the camera. All right, so for those who follow along quite a bit, you might be able to tell what I did differently just by looking at this view right here. I'll give it just a second here to see if you guys can figure it out. All right, so here it is. We've got a hole back there in the wood. Do you see that? Behind this ball guide. What it is that was the hole that I originally had cut or had drilled through my CNC for this ball guide. And what it did, it allowed every time the ball came down, it would nick this pop bumper and add a level of chaos. Well, the more I played it, the more I felt that level of chaos was just too chaotic. I mean, the amount of time that the ball could end up just bouncing around the lower third, where you didn't even have a chance to get control between this and these targets facing in at you. We had so much side-to-side movement that, I mean, there were times that it went through your entire ball save when a ball got launched, and then all of a sudden it would shoot down, the ball save was gone, or you just, you've got timers on the screen is the plan, right? You've heard me talk about where, in the first 15, 20 seconds of the song, you need to shoot the horseshoe loop a certain number of times to get your bonus. People weren't even having the opportunity to do that because it would just continue to just have so much chaos. Every time you made an orbit shot, it would come around, it would do that again. So what did I do? I moved it. I drilled a new hole. Come on, camera, focus. Drilled a new hole and I moved that up just, about 3 millimeters. just enough to where now it just slides past that pop bumper. Did I say drop target? Oh, it slides past this pop bumper, and it doesn't hit it, it comes straight to your right flipper every time. And the play testing, I've just done it myself since then. I'm really enjoying it a lot more. In fact, it takes away so much of the chaos now that before I was so concerned about how wide this out lane was over here and the ball could get rejected and maybe, you know, some really bad, rough drains from this pop bumper. But there's enough chance for you now to get control. Every time you do an orbit and the ball launches, it comes right to your right flipper for easy control. I'm not worried about that anymore. I think it's good. It took it from this kind of crazy, brutal thing that for the first couple of weeks of me doing it, I thought was fun. But quickly I got tired of it and like, yeah, no, that's just too much chaos. I'm sure several of you saw that and already realized, wow, that's a lot of chaos going on down there, Steve. Anyway, so I changed that and that's going really good. So from that, the other big things I've been doing is just dialing in a lot of the switches and things, and primarily really has been the staircase. So in addition to that though, as you'll see up here in the back box, I've rearranged things a little bit to make sure I had room for lights, and I finally got my mini PC up here running, and I took the time to go through and get Linux set up. I've never done Linux before, but I found this great installer for Ubuntu, and it's really not that difficult to get the OS installed, and it was not that difficult to get things up and running and get the right software installed. I did get convinced by Anthony also go ahead and upgrade to MPF version 0.57, the latest version. And yeah, there's some changes. There's big changes between MPF 57 and MPF 56, and so I had to update my code. And there's a few little things here and there that I'm trying to follow along the documentation. Anyway, it was a process. It took me basically a better part of a week, you know, working the nights to go through and get that up and running, get everything dialed in, and figure out a couple of the things I didn't quite have right. There's little nuances here and there. Anyway, I made a couple additions to the documents here and there so people won't get stuck where I got stuck on a couple of things. And now it's running great. Everything's up and running. We got MPF monitor running so I can be watching my light shows, media controllers going, everything's playing, everything is playing great, and it's playing it's like lightning. This has got an Intel i5 in here. Mini PC I got on Black Friday. It's got 16 gigs RAM, solid state drive. It's got good HDMI output, and it's got 4 USB, 2 3.0, and 1 USB-C. And anyway, it's got all the connections I need. Got it for about $300, which is a little bit more than probably what most people think of spending on homebrew pinball machines. You know, computer to really run everything. It doesn't really need that much to run everything right, but I'm still kind of doing dev, and so I want a PC that's really quick to jump through my editors and everything else. Plus, I'm going to start running a few videos on this machine, everything, and I don't know. I'm a big believer of what Wolf Marsh out there in the community talks about. Like, I've spent so much money on my homebrew pinball machine already. What's maybe another $100, $150 to get a slightly nicer computer just to make sure that it's beefy enough and I do not have any sort of issues with it being able to handle all the assets and media that I'm throwing into my game. So my game's actually still pretty light. I've got like one video now that's part of the Stairway multi-ball mode, which if you come out to the to quarters on February 21st, you'll get to see how I'm kind of starting to implement that. I think it works pretty well. So I wish I had like more video footage and stuff to work in here, and I could. There's just, when we'll get there, it's just a lot. There's so much time I spent on coding already. I've got half the modes now all set up with their shots, so their combos and everything going well. I've got the other half I'm gonna get nailed before we go out to quarters here next week. So anyway, I had to rearrange some things to make sure I had room for that. I also want to make sure I had proper room for some lighting. I just went with some simple LED fluorescent replacements. These are the exact same things that I get off Amazon, really cheap. I get maybe a set of like 4 of these, I think for like 25, 30 bucks shipped to me. And they are perfect replacements in all of your existing games that are like pre-spike from Stern and all that, your older Williams and Ballets. You can just do a couple of wire changes and get this running directly from the power supply. So when I turn this on, I immediately get light to my artwork. I put in 2 just because I wanted to have my PC mounted here in the center, and so instead of 1 bulb really high, they were cheap enough. I went ahead and just put in a second one. So now I've got 2 LED bulbs that come on, provide lots of light to my artwork, and I've got that set up here in here, and its power supply all wrapped down around. It's not the cleanest, most sexy box in the world. Some cables have gotten a little bit lengths have changed as I rearrange things, so I'll probably want to come back through and redo some final wiring that looks really good. But anyway, everything's working really good. The last change I'm going to make is with these mounts I made for my LCD display. I found that my LCD display is a little too high, and so the very top of the screen is getting cut off. And so I need to reprint out these brackets for the speakers just a little bit lower. I don't know why I never saw these before, but Pinball Life has some nice metal brackets that go with the Stern Spike speaker setup here. So I'm gonna try putting those in and see if those are easier to hold my speakers, and then probably have a smaller, thinner mount that goes on top of those to hold the screen in place. But I've also had a lot of issues with this screen. Let me bring the camera in close again. Now, while this setup has worked great in a lot of respects and was affordable, I got this screen I think for maybe like around 75 bucks. I got this HDMI controller, which is this card and these cables here, for like another 25, 30 bucks off Amazon, and they're sticking here and everything works great. This little connector back here with this tiny thin little fragile ribbon cable comes into the back of the LCD panel. It's not made to be exposed and have wires and fingers and things accidentally hit it and pull it out. And that's happened a few times where things have knocked it out. It's pretty fragile, got knocked once and part of the bracket got busted, so I had to buy. Luckily it wasn't the screen that got broken, but this HDMI controller, so I had to buy another HDMI controller for 30 bucks, put it in here. I'm just waiting for it to break again. Well, I found online a replacement external LCD flat monitor that is super thin, has its controller and everything. It's all put inside a nice plastic case with an HDMI port, and so everything is enclosed, the controller and everything. All I need to do is put an HDMI controller in it. That's it. And it runs off of like USB-C power, which I can get from here, and it's gonna be slick. It's gonna be way more secure and more robust and rugged, and handle me traveling around to shows and all that, and banging on a lot better than this little fragile exposed setup is. So that's on order. I'm hoping to get that here soon. That'll be kind of the last change, is getting this kind of reconfigured with the screen aligned perfectly to where it's just a little bit too high. I don't know if you can see in the camera, there's just a little bit of a gray line. The screen's just about 4 or 5 millimeters too high. It's getting cut off. Anyways, so that's to come. Computer system's up, lighting's in, this rail has changed. I'm really loving the play. And then it came down to, okay, what else do I need to really feel confident about letting people come and play my machine? Because last time we did it, it was not great. Things were constantly crashing and going up and down. So it really came down to the staircase. And the issue with the staircase is the more you go through and play it, I've got a strong stepper motor, and I've got the strongest Pololu Tick controller card. It can handle the most voltage. So I know I'm getting proper, solid, good 12 volt voltage, which is what this NEMA stepper motor needs. And it creates an electromagnetic field to hold things in place and to move itself, right? And I think, as I said in one of my last videos, it's great because you can't break that motor by like forcing it to move. If you have something stronger than the electromagnetic force that it's creating, great, you can overpower it, but you don't break anything. There's no like internal gears that are chipping away or things like that. So that's nice, kind of for peace of mind. But yes, there is a limit to just how strong of a force this motor is creating. And I went through and looked. There is a larger motor that has a stronger electromagnetic field, a little bit stronger, that might be able to handle the force of a ball coming and hitting the stair. Because what's happening, I haven't had problems with the plastic. This is still just PLA, and it's holding up great. Nothing's cracked, nothing's chipped. There's no denting, like it's holding up fantastic. I will print this out final in black so it kind of matches everything. But the problem I'm having is when a strong flipper shot with a ball comes up and it nails this staircase, it does that. Did you see that? The staircase moves. Now right now it's moving really easily because the motor's not engaged, right? But that is exactly what happens in the game also. With a strong enough shot from these flippers, they're pretty strong to make sure they can make the orbits and make up this ramp. They're set kind of strong. I want them to be nice and snappy. Well, it makes it to where even when the motor is engaged, this will hit just hard enough that it'll kick it up a couple of steps. And the first time it does that, it doesn't matter. There is enough leeway here with the ball. It'll still come in, kind of make that little jump off that little lip there, but then we'll do it again. And eventually it'll get the step off enough to where then, once you lock a ball, you hit this switch and the staircase advances a certain number of steps. It advances 50 steps to be able to go from a flat stair to the next flat stair. That's exactly 50 increments, okay? So if the ball's come in and hit it and knocked it forward 10 steps, between 8 to 12 steps, somewhere around that number of increments, right? And then it goes 50, well, now every time it's gonna be off a little bit. And eventually it gets high enough to where then the ball won't come in. And then you can't lock the ball and you can't advance it. It's just kind of sitting there stuck in between, right? So you probably are thinking automatically, oh, well, Steve, you gotta have a way to home this, right? Yes, absolutely. But I don't want to simply have it to be every time you lock a ball that it homes, because it's going to go until it hits a homing switch, right? Because then we're going to end up with empty stairs in between balls. That means it would automatically be advancing when it shouldn't be. Anyways, so I had to go through and start thinking about, okay, how do I handle this? Do I make it every time you lock a ball, it automatically advances the staircase for you and like tries to do like a home sequence? Well, that's where Anthony came in, because there was no ability to tell the stepper motor, hey, move until your home switch is active again. That didn't exist in MPF. It's a simple enough thing, but I think that's a feature that has not been used a ton, stepper motors. I know a handful of people are using them, but they're also using them just to kind of like turn like diverters or signage, kind of like back and forth from a starting position to a finished position. Kind of these absolute movements, right? And mine's a little more relative and it interacts more with the ball. It can knock it off. There's been a number of other things we've kind of ran into as I've been experimenting that, bless his heart, Anthony's been very quick to go through and say, oh, we can add that feature. We can add that feature. And he's been amazing to add it in, and now it's available for everyone. So he did exactly that. Not only do we have the ability now to control a stepper motor in relative increments, right, versus just like absolute positions, you also now have the ability to go through and trigger a home sequence where basically it'll tell the stepper motor, move until your homing switch is active again. Because this would get to where it's kind of in between, to where then my homing switch would no longer be active. So, oh, if it's moved enough to where the homing switch isn't even active, then can we just tell it to move until it is active again? And Anthony's like, yeah, we can do that. So that's what we've got set up now. I wanted to keep the aspect of you needing to lock a ball and then also decide and hit a shot to advance the staircase. I like being able to, tell the staircase to move, right? Having to hit that shot. So I didn't make it automatically go to a homing position, but what I did do is every time that you hit the switch to advance the staircase, it'll move about 15 or 20, it moves about 30 steps right now is where I've kind of dialed in. It's a perfect thing. It moves about 30 steps, gets it off of that switch, and then it immediately says, oh, by the way, go ahead and now home. So then it moves the last 20 steps. Well, it's a relative amount. It'll move the last however many steps it needs to until it's back again right where it should be in its home position. So if it's been hit forward 10 steps, I'm moving to move 35 steps. It's only got 5 steps left to go. It'll only move 5 steps. And so every time it'll stop when it gets homed. Now, that sounds easy. Way to go. We figured it out. That wasn't too difficult, right? Well, then the real world came in and kind of kicked me in the butt a little bit. Because it's not just a matter of saying, hey, logically this should work every single time. The reality is I had some different physical things in play that were not as precise and absolute in the real world as like the logic and the code we were thinking about, okay? And that namely was this, my homing switch. I was using a homing switch that was a physical switch. And it's one of these. I'll bring it in closer so you can see it. Hopefully that's close enough. And you'll notice I've bent this. I've been doing all sorts of things to try to make this little switch, which you may recognize. It's been used in lots of different pinball machines. The one that I'm most familiar with is in Simpson's Pinball Party. In the couch up on the upper play field, a ball will go up on the couch and then it comes through and it rolls over this switch. It rolls over this and pushes that switch down to see there's a ball there, right? When it releases, it goes back up. So my thought, this is the bracket that holds the motor, the stepper motor for my staircase. What if I simply add this switch so every time the stairs come up and are rotating past this, it can come up and hit this switch. And that way I know when the lip of the stair hits this, I can position this in such a place that when it hits it, it means that the stairs are in the right spot, okay? Wow, I hope all that was in frame. I should back up probably. Anyway, long story short, every time the stairs come up, the corner of the stairs will hit this and tell it, hey, I'm in the right spot. And I did my best to 3D model this and get this in the right height and front to back position and all that, right? The difficult thing is, when you're dealing with this staircase, it has a sharp edge. I really only have a very, very small, physical space to have this work without it damaging the switch. Because if I get it to where I have to get to where just the very tip of that staircase, right? My knuckle is the tip of the staircase, just the tip of that is hitting it. If too much of the stair early on hits it, then it pushes so hard, it's pushing up in and it'll break this. It'll end up bending this like crazy. And eventually it would bend this so much to where it just wouldn't really register or would register very late, where then the stairs would always stop in a higher position, kind of past their true home, because it was bending this thing out of place. So you might think, hey Steve, can't you just like find the right position that it, you know, the stairs hit it just right? Well, with how much, what I have as far as for space underneath the pinball machine, let me show you that now. I'm a little bit limited on exactly where I can mount this. Okay, hopefully that's easier to see now. So yes, my wires have gotten a little bit messy as I've iterated and moved things around. They're not quite as clean as they were before. So that will have to get cleaned up eventually also. So ignore my less than ideal wiring. It's, yeah, it's a little bit embarrassing. But, so this motor mount was in here, right? And every time the steps would come around, it would hit this. And I mean, yeah, I could make this higher or lower, okay? And I can move this forward and back a certain amount. But if you see the edge of the motor mount here, it's really about the size of the stairs. So there's not a ton of space I have for where that stair can come in and hit without it also, like, you know, hitting this thing. Anyway, suffice it to say, I changed positions on this a good 12, 15 times probably, and I was moving it up and down and back and forth and in and out a little bit. In and out didn't really matter, right? I mean, the stair is there no matter what, right? But to get some clearance from this. And thought I found the right position to where this would hit right when the stair came up to its last spot, right about, but see these last few moments of this movements of the stairs, this stair is moving pretty flat and just kind of forward. So as far as for when it hits this certain height, it hits the height kind of early and kind of slides along that height until it gets into its final position. So I had to make sure that the switch hit early, but not too early, or else it wouldn't be in the right spot on the stairs. Anyway, it got really difficult to get it dialed into the right place is what I'm saying. And I even was like bending the wire, doing all sorts of things, trying to get it to work. And I just couldn't get it to work, not consistently enough. And this would eventually kind of get bent and things, get pushed out of position. So I changed it to what I have here, which might be hard to see. So let me take this apart. But what I did in here is I put in an opto. So I added an opto, and it's over here. I added an opto on this side of the stepper motor right in here. That is basically upside down and as close to kind of the top of the bracket. So instead of this, I've now got an opto here in this corner. Very close there. And I came up with these brackets. Where did I put it here? It's very similar to the holders I have on my ramps and all that, right? It's just a little 3D printed piece of plastic that kind of has a depression where the emitter board can go in and then kind of stay flush in place. And it goes in here and slides in. And then I've got this little cap to protect the back that just comes down. And instead of kind of snapping in place, it just kind of like slides down in place. Okay? It's got like this little cap, little hood. That comes down and protects the connections and all that, right? And then this is kind of a funky shape here because just where I had room between the switch and the lights I had here, I only had a certain position I could really mount this. And if it came straight up, it was not in the right position to really connect with this beam the way I needed it to. I needed it to be a little bit further forward. So I had to go up and have it kind of jog over. And yeah, and so that went in place there. I've actually found that I had one in there that only had one screw, and with the rattling of the pinball machine and enough of the ball moving around, this would slowly go out of position. So I actually just barely printed this one that has a longer flange here with room for 2 screws to hold it in position more securely. So we're going to take this one out. So that was the piece I had in there. Okay. And we'll put in the other one. All right. Now I'm going to have to, kind of get that lined up exactly here once I'm done with the video. And then put the other screw in. But I tested this. Let's get the other opto back in place also. So the wire got crimped a little bit. So this one slides in here. And then its little cover. There we go. So that stays in place here. So now we have a beam that comes across diagonally. is what I found works best, diagonally across these stairs. So when the stairs start to move, this stair immediately blocks the beam here, okay? And then it continues to be blocked. I don't want my fingers to block it too much, right? It continues to be blocked until this side of the staircase now is past this beam, right about there. Now it's not exactly flat because between the parser in the code and the acceleration of the actual stepper motor itself, if I wait and have it not become unblocked until it's perfectly flat, the motor will continue to run just a couple more steps and it'll push it just a little bit further past. So between the milliseconds it takes for the parser to go through and say, hey, this switch is now closed again, open, however you want to look at it, right? It's changed state. This beam is now connected again. And then how long it takes for the motor to decelerate and the software to tell what to stop moving and all that, it would move just a little bit past it. So I got it to where the beam is open just before it gets clear, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 steps early. So then by the time it stops, it is stopped in the right place, okay? All right. Probably more interesting if you actually cared how this mech worked like me, because it's my machine, right? But there you go. That's what I had to figure out. And this setup with the Opto has been consistent. It's been working now quite a bit. Anyways, I say quite a bit because I literally finished doing that like this I don't know, just a few days ago. So in the testing I've been doing, it's been working really well. I did have issues, like I said, where this thing was kind of rattling around and not staying exactly perfectly aligned. Same issue I just had in my Jurassic Park, by the way, on the left ramp. The optos were a little bit out. It wasn't registering that shot. I had to kind of tweak and tighten the screws in the right place so those optos, those sensors were lined up perfectly. Had the same issue with my Godzilla. Anyways, once I get this other screw here, get this dialed in, have the other screw in place to lock it down, this should now be secure and no longer be getting, beat around or moved with the rattling of the machine. And we should be good. Like I said, all the initial testing was working great. And that removes the need for this switch that constantly is getting bent, which also, every once in a while, when the stepper motor, when I was testing, would go backwards, try to reset itself, it would snap off that piece of metal. Well, now there's nothing in the way, so the stairs can do whatever they want, and it doesn't break my homing switch whatsoever. And this I've been able to dial this in more accurately than I could with that. So it's very precise. It's either blocked or it's not. And as long as these are staying solid and not moving, which they seem very solid now, and I'm pretty pleased with the little doohickey that came up to kind of mount and hold these LEDs, or the emitters, and be able to easily get them in and out. That was slick, so I'm pretty pleased with that. So, with that, I do believe the staircase is now dialed in. I'm not going to dare say to perfection, but to a high level of consistency and quality, to where, like I said, as I've been playing, it's been playing great and hasn't had issues. So yeah, we're going to get that dialed in. We're going to make sure that lines up exactly where it should, get that other screw tightened down so it doesn't move anymore. And I'm just going to be playing games and hitting the stair over and over and over between now and next week when I take it to Quarters Arcade in Sugar House. If you guys are here local whatsoever, please, please, please come on down. Quarters is just a fun place to hang out. Michael's a great guy. He runs a great place. Both of them, the one downtown in Salt Lake and the one over here in Sugar House. They're both amazing places. If you haven't ever done a pinball tournament before, I know it can be daunting and sound like really, I don't know, overwhelming, or like everyone's going to kick my butt. They're way better. Hey, happens to me all the time. It's actually fun though. You get into it and anyway, if you haven't ever done one, I highly encourage you, come out to wherever your local arcade is, local league night you guys have in your area. Look around on Facebook, find a group of people who are doing it, and just go start playing. It's fun. There's so many different formats now that we're doing that are IFPA sanctioned, to where, anyway, it's just, there's lots of different ways you can do it, and it's a lot of fun. You get to learn a lot of different machines, hang out with some different people. I love it. So I really missed having to skip and not go to any of the leagues or tournaments a lot the last couple of years while I was building this. I told my wife, like, hey, I want to build this machine. She's like, well, you're already playing pinball a couple of nights a week. So I replaced those nights of playing pinball to building pinball, right? And now I'm getting near completion. I'm starting to go back out and play a little bit more. And yeah, I've missed it. It's fun just to get out and do it. So anyways, there's my plug for your playing your local tournaments. You should give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. So there you have it. That's kind of where we're at. That's the latest. It catches you up. It was way wordier than I wanted it to be, but hey, you know by now that's just how I roll. I just cannot stop talking when it comes to pinball. Otherwise, I'm kind of a quiet guy. Yeah, as I'm sure most of us are, right? Pinball is what we can talk about and go on forever. Anyways, yeah, so we've got lighting, we've got the artwork that's gonna go. Yeah, the next big thing, like I said, is taking it down, letting everybody play on it, see what else I learned from that. And then the next big milestone is in June, 7th, 8th, and 9th, up in Tacoma, Washington, or just outside Tacoma. I forget exactly, is it Tacoma? I forget the name of the city. Anyway, the Northwest Pinball and Arcade Show, NWPAS. Google that and you'll find it. Great set of guys. All the guys from Fast, Aaron and them live locally, and so they've got a big presence there. We're gonna have all sorts of seminars and talk tracks, and everybody's gonna have a lot of homebrews there. I think we'll easily probably have like a dozen machines there. You can come play and ask questions and learn from everybody else who's built way more machines than I have and has even more knowledge than I do. And they'll all be able to help you get in and do your own if you're thinking about it also. Because if you haven't started working on your own pinball machine yet, why the heck not? It's a labor of love. Yes, it goes on for a while and it will cost you money, but man, it's so much fun. And there's so many fun ways to do this. There's just so many people I know that are moving so much faster. You don't even necessarily have to build up a full, like, you know, full-size pinball machine with all the bells and whistles exactly trying to copy like a manufactured, you know, production pin. There's this great guy, Tanner Petch, who's going through out there. If you haven't joined the Strictly Custom Pinball Machines channel that our good friend Jake Danzig runs over on Facebook, go check out that group, that Facebook group. There's so many people with so many fun projects and so many different ways they're going about it. And Tanner has these really fun machines that are very non-conventional in every way, shape, and form. He's much more of an artist in his creation than I'll ever be, where he's got different size cabinets, different heights, different shapes, different everything. The ball's going through the back box, around sides, all. And he's not the only one. There's lots of people that have all sorts of crazy things going on. Anyway, go to that Facebook group, get inspired, start drawing some sketch paper, do it in the computer, however you do it, come up with some ideas. Once you have something that you can't stop thinking about, like, boy, I think that would be a really fun thing to build in pinball, just sit down and start doing it. Watch my early videos, go on the tutorials you'll see online. There's so many great places. Look in the resources in the description of my video. I've got a little written tutorial. I've got the videos. Mission Pinball Framework has a great tutorial to get you up and running through all the software and code. The Fast Pinball Hardware guys have such great documentation now on exactly how to go through and wire and power and do things safely. Like, so if you're not an electrician, don't worry. They've got great detailed documentation with great pictures, a great community with them also. Once you buy their starter pack, you're part of their Slack channel and everybody's there willing to help you out. Anyway, there's so many resources. I never could have done this without all the resources. I am literally standing on the shoulders of giants, and you can too, and you'll have a fun game that you made yourself, all right? Okay, come along for the journey. Okay, until next time, guys, I'll come back and I'll let you know how the playtesting went, and one of the next big things I'm gonna be doing is trying to finally get this upper play field put in with a clear acrylic, etched with a laser, with the LED strips around the edge to light it up, because like light shows, that's what I'm kind of feeling now is the next big thing I'm missing. I've got some decent sound effects and stuff, but I need better light shows. I need more pinball moments. When the staircase gets full and you're ready to start the Stairway to Heaven multi-ball, I want that to be a moment that you enjoy and you feel, and it's not yet. I got to get there. So I've got more coding, more light shows, more of that stuff to do. But once I get it all set up and ready to go and I feel like it's good, I'll record a video and show it to you, and yeah, you'll give me your feedback. Let me know what you think, okay? All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.